What hell? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this, an irresponsible review, in which I unfairly judge a game based entirely on the early segment of it. So, just like a normal review on the internet, only I'm honest about it. My name is Totalbiscuit, and this is Transformers War for Cybertron on the PC. Kick it into high gear and have a look at the single-player campaign, the first 15 minutes of it specifically, as I tell you a little bit about this game, and hopefully give you a vague idea that you should take with a huge pillow of salt as to whether or not you should pick it up and have some fun with it. Okay, so we start on the first mission of the campaign, which is Decepticons. We've got Brawl, we've got Barricade, which we can choose, and Megatron, who, of course, you should pick because it's frickin' Megatron. Now, I'm going to shut up for a second because amazing voice acting incoming.
Civil war has ravaged Cybertron, homeworld to the Transformers, for millions of years. Megatron, leader of the Decepticons, recently discovered an ancient power that will give him the edge to win over the hated Autobots. Called Dark Energon, this power remains locked away in an orbital station under the protection of a Sky Commander named Starscream.
Yes, indeed. Enjoy some fantastic FMV footage.
Hold your course! Starscream wouldn't fight with such desperation if the legends weren't true!
Lord Megatron, you're certain it's here?
I am certain, Barricade. And when I find it, the balance of this war with the Autobots will finally tip in my favor. Lord Megatron, stabilizers are failing! Maintain your heading, Brawl! Do not falter!
Sublight engines are offline. Shields at 15%.
Reroute all power to forward guns and thrusters! Full speed ahead!
But sir, that's suicide!
Any further objections? Ram this warship straight into the heart of that station!
You getting chills yet? How about now? Okay, so there's going to be a lot of voice acting in this game. I'm going to have to talk over it for obvious reasons, otherwise I'll never get more than a word in edgeways. Megatron is a talky sort. Okay, so Transformers War for Cybertron. It is a third-person shooter with a little bit of melee in it, although not all that much. Middle mouse button sort of Bad Company 2 style stabby melee. It's good stuff nonetheless. Okay, so the single-player campaign is based around having a team of 3. Now, you can play this in full drop-in, drop-out co-op, and in fact, I would recommend doing so, simply because it's a hell of a lot of fun. Now, each mission is about an hour in length, so you've got 10 missions, about an hour each, 10 hours in terms of its playability for the single player, and each of the classes available, there are 4 of them. There's a leader, a scientist, oh, I better shut up, because it's this dude.
Starscream, and I have protected my station for over 1,000 years.
And I am an annoying bastard.
Leader of the Decepticons. This space station is Decepticon property. Surrender.
I don't see your name on it, Megatron.
You've traveled a long way just to meet your doom.
Oh, come on. When has Starscream successfully done anything? Okay. So, yeah, you've got the 4 classes. Megatron is a leader class, and the single player is a little bit weird in that regard, because each class has a form they can transform into, but sometimes in the single-player missions, they default you to a specific form. Like, for instance, all 3 of the characters in Mission 2 are jets, and they have to be, because otherwise they'd never make their way through the mission. In this case, they're all tanks. So, you can transform with the F key, and the actual tank has its own ammo type. And you can pick up that ammo separately. So it's kind of, there you go, there's the tank. So tanks, all vehicles have some kind of special ability. This one's got a big tank cannon, a lot of damage, and that's all good. Now, as you will see, you transform fairly seamlessly. You can do so in mid-air if you wish, which is very cool for any of those of you who like Transformers. It's very smooth. In fact, the animation in general in this game is absolutely superb. Now, you see that I'm using a hover ability. That's one of the 2 abilities I've got. This one is based on cooldown, which obviously it just takes time to recharge. That hover ability makes you move fairly slowly, but you can hover over gaps, and you do extra damage when you're in the air. All of the 4 classes have different abilities in the multiplayer and in the single player. Oh, I'm sorry. You cannot. You absolutely cannot look at that and not be so very pleased as to how well they did it. I saw their melee attack in medium difficulty. Most of the bots die in a single hit from that, and hard, they take a couple. Melee is fairly effective, although later on in the game, you tend to get your ass kicked if you decide to just charge in for good measure. Works very well in multiplayer as well. You actually get bonus points for a melee kill, which is fairly neat. Now, as to the modes this game has, you've got this single-player campaign that, again, can be played in co-op. You've got a multiplayer which has, let's see, I believe it's 12 players available and 5 or 6 gameplay modes. Now, one of the problems that the multiplayer has is that there are no dedicated servers on any platform. So, on a PC, I've found a number of occasions where lag has been an issue, particularly since I'm currently playing in the EU. This game isn't actually out till tomorrow in the EU, and there are rumours that it will be delayed further in the UK for whatever reason. Now, in terms of gameplay modes, you've got your standard deathmatch, which is a lot of fun. You've got a capture the flag style, you've got an objective style, all that kind of good stuff. You also have a so-called escalation mode, which is like Horde from Gears of War, and a little bit like Firefight from Halo ODST. It's a massive amount of fun, and it's got some pretty neat innovations, including a bunch of kiosks, which you have to unlock as you go through, which allow you to buy new weapons and a bunch of different upgrades, ammo, health, and all that kind of good stuff. Anyway, back to the multiplayer. It's class-based and it's level-based, so it's got a little bit of Team Fortress in there, and it's got a little bit of Modern Warfare 2. You gain levels, and these levels allow you to unlock different perks. There are 18 in total per class, and there are 3 slots which you can put them in. Also allows you to unlock different weapons. Now, you do start with some very good weapons, so it's not all that imbalanced, although obviously the perks, while mostly situational, are very handy to have. It's a good progression system. You level up fairly quickly, and what I'd like to highlight particularly is the fact that you get all sorts of different XP boosts depending on what you did to kill. You see that hover right there? If I'd done that in multiplayer, I'd have got a bonus called High and Mighty for killing someone while hovering, and that would have given me a boost. There's all sorts of different boosts, and I think actually the nearest comparison I can give to the extreme nature of how many XP boosts you get for various different types of kills is actually a game called 50 Cent Blood on the Sand that had a ridiculous number of it. And I died. There you go. Now, if you die in co-op, you have to restart the whole thing, but unless you fall down an insta-death trap, you fall on your ass, and you can be revived a la Left 4 Dead style. You can also continue to shoot. Okay, now, that's something neat right there. Let me show you this weapon here. I picked up a mortar, which is extremely effective. A lot of big damage from that. You can carry 2 weapons at any given time. Generally speaking, you can't swap out your primary weapon, only swap out your secondary. A lot of different opportunities to switch around, and in the single player, you can use pretty much anything. You can in the multiplayer as well, but you are generally restricted to what you spawn with a weapon that's, say, class-based. Say the scout gets the Knoll sniper rifle, whereas the soldier gets a minigun and also get a rocket launcher in there as well. Now, it is difficult not to be impressed with the graphical quality of this game. Now, you may have noticed in some of the cutscenes the texture quality not incredible, especially at high resolutions. This is at 1920 by 1080. This is on maximum detail on the PC, and some of the textures look pretty bad in the cutscenes, but here they look absolutely fantastic. The game is capped at 30 frames per second on the PC, which is a bizarre decision and something which might put you off. I wouldn't exactly blame you for that, but I'm playing at constant 30 FPS even while frapsing, which shows some fairly impressive optimization, particularly at this resolution. Runs very smooth indeed. The animation quality is top-notch, and great effects, both in terms of sound, using an awful lot of Generation 1 Transformers sound effects, really meaty stuff, great music, and fantastic voice acting, including, of course, the original voice actor for Optimus Prime. This, to me, seems like the Arkham Asylum of Transformers. Oh god, Starscream speaking again. I suppose I should shut up.
Surrender your
gotta love it. The banter between your characters is fantastic as well. Voice acting top-notch across the board. Starscream is just as annoying as you remember him to be. Like I said, this is the Arkham Asylum of Transformers. There really is no question about that whatsoever. It's extremely high quality on all fronts. It's not big on the innovation, particularly in the single player. It's a fairly bog-standard third-person shooter. The Transformers mode is nice, and obviously you've got your two abilities, and the weapons all feel good, but there's no massive innovation here. But then again, bear in mind, Arkham Asylum never really had all that much either. It was just an extremely polished game that, most importantly, gave a huge amount of respect to the original license, which is not something that any other Transformers game has really done, as you saw, particularly with the recent efforts, and I use that term extremely loosely.
Megatron, how do we get out? From here I can rain down.
We kill all sons of bitches, of course. Obligatory turret section, but thanks to, I imagine, a little bit of influence from Just Cause 2, you can actually rip the turret off, and my god, is it awesome. Sufficient variety in the gameplay to justify playing through the whole thing, even though the missions are very long. I mean, we are talking about an hour each here. They do have some fairly fantastic bosses. There aren't any bosses on the first level, but the boss on the second level, especially on hard, will have you scurrying for cover. Now, on co-op, since you die if one of your guys is not revived, and you can still die if you're on the floor, don't get me wrong. If you take damage while you're on the floor, you will die. And you'll also die after a specific amount of time unless you're either repaired or someone gets over to you and holds down the revive button. It's dangerous stuff. We spent an hour hammering away on the boss at the end of level 2 in co-op mode on hard, and we didn't manage to beat him. He's tough, and he's very imaginative, and he's bloody huge.
The fools gave us our exits. Onward, through that door.
Okay, let's get this turret. There we go. That's a weapon fitting for Megatron. Unfortunately, you do lose it if you transform, so just bear that in mind. I'm gonna go back and grab that here, because it's awesome, and you don't want to lose this gun.
This is a true instrument of destruction.
So in character. Okay, now, there are a few problems with the PC port. I mean, for one thing, well, I've already explained the dedicated servers, I've already explained the 30 FPS cap. You can't rebind the keys, which is incredibly odd. You'd think that maybe you could muck about with the .ini files, the configs. They're actually encrypted. Now, I've no doubt that someone will manage to get past that eventually, but at this point in time, no one has. So, you're locked at 30 FPS, you're stuck with having to either play with a 360 pad. I believe you can reconfigure other joypads as well. But if you use an unusual keyboard setup and you don't have macro keys, then you're going to be running into a few issues. What I will say about the controls is there doesn't appear to be any mouse acceleration at all, which is very good. Controls are extremely tight, they're very responsive, and they're properly laid out. It's WAS and D, you use all three of your mouse buttons, and everything just makes sense in general.
Area is secured, Megatron. Excellent.
Now, we're coming towards the end of this video now, so I suppose what I should ask is whether or not this is worth buying. I bought this at full price, which is $40. So great. I wasn't even that big a Transformers fan when I was a kid. I don't know. For some reason, I was big into stuff like Pirates of Darkwater and Conan the Adventurer. I never really got into Transformers. I missed out on it somehow, but this game just oozes quality, respect for the license from every goddamn pore. And regardless of the bizarre decisions with the port, it really is something to behold. It's an awful lot of fun, and the multiplayer has surprising depth.
My name is Jetfire. Not here to fight. That makes one of us. Speak your piece, quickly.
I've seen the horrors of what Dark Energon can do, Megatron. It is not to be trifled with. Its power is too unstable. To use it would mean disaster.
You cannot frighten me, Jetfire. I will use Dark Energon as I please.
You are a short-sighted fool. You'll kill us all!
You say that as if it were a bad thing.
I hope this Dark Energon stuff is worth it, Megatron.
That guy's been in every other game I can think of. You might recognize him from Dawn of War 2 as Cyrus.
Soundwave, report.
We have taken control of this portion
star cruisers to tunnel our way.
Quiet. There must be another access point. We have to reach the station's next pod.
Megatron, I have located a nearby data matrix center to reveal any alternate means of entry to the next pod. Advanced teams have already been...
Okay, this is about quarter to a third of the way through the first level. I'm probably going to end it here. Final verdict, based on what I've played. Full disclosure, I've played about 3 hours of the single player, including some co-op. I've played about 2 or 3 hours multiplayer as well. I don't feel burned by this purchase, despite the fact that I am not the biggest fan of Activision, and the port is certainly not the worst I've ever played, but it's definitely not the best either. It's an extremely high-quality product with an awful lot of replayability. The multiplayer, again, is held back by a lack of dedicated servers, but if you play it with some reliable hosts in your region using the private game feature, it plays really, really well indeed. Great deathmatch play, a lot of game modes, and if you're a Transformers fan, honestly, you would be an absolute fool not to pick this game up. It's just so well put together, there's so much fan service in it, and you're going to find yourself very hard-pressed indeed not to absolutely adore it. My name's Totalbiscuit. Take this review with a pillow of salt, because it is incredibly irresponsible. This has been Transformers War for Cybertron on the PC. My verdict? You like Transformers? Go buy it. Good night.